All right, welcome everybody to Coffee and Connections. My name is Kim Wilbur. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events for the Chamber. So welcome, glad you guys could join us today. One of the biggest things about Coffee and Connections is obviously connections. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna call on you and you can unmute yourself. I want you to tell me your name, your business, and then also what is your favorite thing to do in springtime? Obviously it's gonna be spring soon, thank goodness, we're all tired of the snow. So tell me what's one thing that you would like to do in the spring. So I'm going to call on Shasta first. Go ahead, Shasta.
Okay, I'm Shasta Weeks. Most of you probably know me. I am the operations director at the Chamber. And so, you know, spring is going to be a little different this year, just being able to get outside and enjoy things. But believe it or not, I like to spring clean and get everything all fresh and new and smelling good and open the windows. And hopefully we'll be able to do that soon.
Awesome. So when you're done with your house, just pop on over to mine and you can do my house too.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that.
Okay. All right, Ellen, Miss Ellen, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what's your favorite thing to do in the spring.
I am Ellen Shaver-Shank. I am with the Augusta County Fair, and it is only 21 weeks till the fair. And let's see, what my favorite thing to do is to go outside my back door, sit on the steps, and read a book in the sunshine.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That is a great one. Soak up some vitamin D.
Yes, we could all use that.
I was going to say, we could all use that right about now. All right, great. All right, Janice, if you want to unmute and tell us about yourself.
Hi there, I'm Janice Gentry. I'm with Valley Program for Aging Services. And my favorite thing to do in the spring is to get out into my flower garden and get it cleaned up and ready for the new flowers to come, and plan on what new things I want to plant and all of that. And I've got a lot of that to do because I live on Afton Mountain, and we had an ice storm not too long ago, which brought a lot of tree limbs down. And so I've got a lot of garden cleaning ahead of me.
I bet so. That's a good one. Good exercise too, I bet too. All right, great. Thanks so much. All right, Mr. Wilbur, go ahead and unmute yourself.
So I'm Lacey, and work for Colliers International, full service real estate firm here in Charlottesville. And also married to the lovely Miss Wilbur. My favorite thing to do in the springtime is be outside with the kids, cooking on the smoker, grilling, just being outside. Hate being cooped up.
There you go, Shasta. After you clean the house, maybe they'll feed you.
See, I was just unmuting to say, Kim, yes, while he's out there, we can clean and, have a few adult beverages. It'll be perfect. Kids can jump on the trampoline.
Down for it. Totally down for it.
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, Keith, if you want to unmute and introduce yourself.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Keith Robinson. I'm with the Interchange Group. And boy, if when spring finally does roll around, I hope to be doing one of three things. I'll either be golfing, that would be my first choice, fishing with the kiddos. The river's close by, and so my youngest loves to fish. But I'm a project guy. I'll pedal, I'll be in the yard doing stuff in the garden. Who knows? I'll always find a project to get myself into because I can't stand to sit still. And whatever I do, it'll be outside. So.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, last but not least, Courtney Thompson, our fearless leader.
Thank you very much. I love spring. I love sunshine. I am a big horseback rider and have 3 horses here at home. So whatever I'm doing in the spring is probably involving them. So, and I also like Ellen's idea of reading in the sunshine. That sounds wonderful. We have a porch swing, and that's a good place to sit and read. So looking forward to that. So I am going to introduce Dalton Campbell, our featured guest speaker for the day. We have known Dalton for a long time. If you guys haven't met Dalton, you're in for a treat. We have known him since he first started in his business, and we have watched him just excel and grow and just do amazing things. He is a financial advisor with Anchor Financial Group, and is one of the smartest people I have ever met, for sure. Has some great tips for us today. So I'm going to turn it over to Dalton, and you also have to tell us what you're going to do in the spring.
Well, good morning. Thank you. So I love warm weather. I absolutely hate cold weather. I love the valley, but I may actually retire in like Nevada or something like that. So yeah, I just don't like snow. I'm anti-snow. When I was in school, I liked it, but now I have no use for it anymore. So um, for me, I'm kind of like Keith. I like outside projects, love to play golf, love to ride bikes. So my wife and I have mountain bikes. I like to work out outside, just be outside. I love it hot. I love being outside. So pretty much just anything that I do in spring is better than doing the same thing in winter. That's what I say. So but yeah, thanks for the introduction. Thanks for the kind words. I've met probably most of the people, if not everybody, at some point on the call. So hi again. But yeah, so today I'm going to go through financial strategies or things to keep in mind during tough economic times or during times where there's serious economic shifts that are going on. Last year was the second time, 2018, there was actually a market dip in late 2018, if you remember, like September, October, November of 2018. And that was a cool experience, but it wasn't anything like we saw last year. So in March, obviously, of last year, we saw a massive sell-off in the market. And we basically knew that we were going to shut our economy down or substantial pieces of our economy for an indefinite period of time. And so where that has been very problematic for people, for workers in the economy, it's also very interesting from an investment perspective because times like this are something that people who have financial goals are actually they're the most ideal times to actually start scaling your finances. And so today, for probably the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to go through just a handful of different things to keep in mind. These are things that you can take home and apply to your own financial strategy with your own advisors that you work with. But they're certainly important to keep in mind so that you're not on the receiving end of an economic downturn. You can be on the delivering end and actually profit and make more money out of an economic downturn than not. I will say that every client that I manage has a different portfolio with different strategies, but the average return in my portfolios last year was around 40%. The reason was not because I'm a great investor. The reason was because when the market dipped, it was very evident that it was going to be a temporary dip and that we were still likely to probably finish even or above for the year. So I actually had clients pull additional funds to put into the market instead of withdrawing. And so that's one thing that I'll come across in the thing. But I think that there's still going to be pockets of opportunity like that because the economy still hasn't completely opened up. And so think about questions and stuff like that that you can ask at the end. But I'll go ahead and get started. So number one, the very first thing, and it's a very important thing that I try to do for clients or I challenge them to do for themselves, is to assess your cash flow and know your numbers. Assess your cash flow, know your numbers. I personally have a budget sheet. It's a spreadsheet. Every bill that I have, even if it's like cable, like every bill that I have, I know exactly what the monthly expense is. I know things that I pay annually, and I know when those things hit annually. So I have no surprises when someone hits my debit or credit card. It's not a surprise. I know the day of the month that things come out. And it's tedious, but once you put everything on there, then you're just adding stuff as stuff comes up, and it's actually pretty easy to manage. What this does, it allows you to make strategic decisions when things do change. If you get a promotion, you make an extra $500 a month, you know where your bills go. And so you can say, hey, if this extra expense comes up, should I be doing this? Or should this actually go towards my investments or towards my retirement strategy or kids' college funds or whatever? And so on your balance sheet, your budget sheet, understand where everything's at. Also keep a balance sheet. List what you have in the bank. list your investment retirement balances, log into your investment accounts, understand how they should perform. Okay. If you're in the money market fund and you don't know it, you just defaulted to the money market fund for whatever reason, that's a problem because that's not going to grow. It's safe, but it's not going to grow. You need to get out of that fund because you could be losing 8-10% a year by being in that fund. So know where stuff's at. And if you don't understand it, just ask questions. List your assets, homes, cars, personal items, and list all liabilities. On the liabilities, I recommend putting the maturity date. So if I have a car and I have a 6-year loan, I'm putting 2027 as the maturity date. And I know my interest and I know my monthly payment. There are softwares to help with this. So you could use Mint, Quicken. There are softwares that actually have this stuff built in and can link to your different accounts. So you don't have to manually build it, but have some type of system where you understand where stuff's at. I'll ask clients sometimes. I mean, I'll have clients who are making $150,000, $200,000 a year. And I'll be like, so, what do you set aside every month? I don't know. How in the world do you lose track of $20,000 in a month? I don't understand. And so once we break stuff down, we find like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month of stuff that they're just like, oh, I didn't realize that was that much. Yeah, that's a lot of money. And so when we apply that to their investments and we scale that over time, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. And so just knowing where your cash flow is allows you to be proactive. It also lets you plan for things like, let's say you've got a note that's going to be paid off in a year and a half, and you're paying $500 on that note. Where does that $500 go? You should already know exactly when that note's paid off, where that $500 is going to go. And so creating plans for that allows you to be nimble and even look for opportunities. And so this will kind of lead me into number 2. Once you understand your cash flow and you know where everything's going, look for ways to create more financial efficiency. And so are there ways to save money in your household or in your business or in your lifestyle without sacrificing quality or without giving up something you really enjoy? So can I still have the things that I have, but spend less money every month? And so one big thing is insurance. Everybody has to have insurance. Primarily, this is going to be insurance that's not based on a period of time. So like life insurance, for instance, would be based on your health and your age at a specific period in time. So if I get life insurance and I'm 40, I can shop it all day long when I'm 45. It ain't getting cheaper, right? Car insurance, though, homeowners insurance, a lot of that stuff's based off of data. It really has nothing to do with how old you are. And so different insurance companies are going to raise their rates or reduce their rates based on profitability, claims, losses, stuff like that. And so I personally use an insurance broker. They have access to like 30 different carriers. And every year I have them look at all the insurance carriers and see if I still have a competitive policy and all the specs that I like to have in my policies. I have windshield coverage because I drive 1,000 miles a week or whatever. And so I've got special things. If I can move that to Travelers or Progressive or whoever, and it's cheaper, why would I not do that? Because I literally I'm paying more money at that point just to have a different logo on the top of my page. If I go through a captive agent who just has access to one company's products, not that that agent's a bad person, they're not. I'm sure they're a great agent, but inevitably their rates are going to increase at some point, and you would be able to save money with another carrier. And so you're paying a premium for that. If it's $5 or $10 a month and you have a great relationship, that's fine. But sometimes you'll see people move their auto insurance and save $2,000-3,000 a year or something crazy. And it's like, whoa, yeah, So every year or so, look at insurance options and just have it quoted. You don't have to do business with somebody to have stuff quoted. If you haven't, consider a refinance. I should have gotten a mortgage license early last year and just did this on the side, because this is crazy. I made so many refinance referrals last year, probably $10 million worth of real estate I referred to get refinanced. So my lender partners are happy with me. But rates are still pretty low. I mean, I saw people go from 4.5 or 5% to 2.75. It saves them $400 or $500 a month on their mortgage. That's critical. That's money. We can apply that money to paying down debt, going towards retirement planning. I mean, we literally increase their retirement income $10,000, $12,000 a year by putting that towards their retirement plan. That's huge, all because they refinance their mortgage at the right time. And so when economic conditions collapse, a lot of times you'll see interest rates drop because that's going to stimulate the economy. When that happens, it's always a great time to refinance some of your debt. If you're a business, look at other services that you use. So look at service providers, primarily payment processing. If I'm a coffee shop or a small business and I'm using something like Square or First Data or something like that, those are good processors. There's nothing wrong with them, but maybe they're too expensive, or maybe, there is a comparable solution like Elevon or TSYS or something like that that is less expensive and just as effective as what you're currently using. And if I'm doing a ton of transactions, I'm a business, I could be paying $40,000, $50,000 a year in payment processing fees. If I cut that in half, that's $25,000. So shop stuff. Loyalty's good. I know in the Valley, it's a good old boy. We're in the Valley and we're going to be loyal. But at the same time, I'm trying to make money. So I'll be your friend, but I'm not going to pay you a premium for you to stay my friend. I need to do what's right. And if I can save $400 or $500 a month, I'm doing that for my business. It's just how it is. Number 3, understand your investment or your retirement strategy. You don't have to get a Series 7 because that would make me unemployed. Okay. But I do want you to understand the basics of what you have and how it works. There's a couple reasons for this. You need to understand how long you have to access your funds. It's also your time horizon. So show of hands for anybody I can see who has a 401k, IRA, something like that. Okay, great. So let's say I'm 40 years old and I've got an IRA. I can't even access that account without a penalty for 19 years. So if the market drops today, why do I care? It's going to grow back. It has to over 19 years. I'm just going to keep feeding it and not really pay that much attention to it. And so we see a lot of people panic when markets correct and they're like, I got to get out of the market. I got to sell all my investments. That's not a great idea because A, you're killing years of compound interest when you do that. And B, you're paying penalties and fees that you shouldn't, and taxes that you shouldn't have to pay, capital gains, income taxes, because you're panicking. Keep it there. If you don't need the funds today or next week, just let it ride out. The market will recover over time. And so understand your time horizon. If you have a short time horizon, you should have a more conservative overall portfolio. So let's say I'm 70 and I am drawing off of those funds for income. I'm not going to be as aggressive as someone who's 30. And so if the market dips, I might see a dip, but I shouldn't see the dip overall in my portfolio of someone who's 30, for instance. And so you need to make sure that you're in some ways bulletproofed from that type of volatility. Liquidating investments at the bottom of a market is never a great idea because there's an old saying that says you only lose when you sell. And so a good example of why you shouldn't do that is, let's say I've got a stock, for instance, and I own this stock and it's $100 a share. Okay. And let's say the value of that stock drops 50% to $50 a share. If I hold it, eventually, unless something seriously happened in that company that should warrant a sale, it's probably going to come back. So I'm going to hold that and I'm going to wait for it to come back to 100. And then I might think about selling or I just keep holding it and it continues to increase. But to get from 100 to 50, you've lost 50%. If you buy that stock at 50 and it goes to 100, that's 100%. So that's why people buy in a low market, is I can buy that stock now for 50, and the person who went from 100 to 50 lost 50%. They have to make 100% to get back. And so when markets retract, it's always kind of a multiple of what the retreat was to come back up. And so it is good buying opportunities. So when you sell at the bottom, you're locking in those losses. You should actually be doing the very opposite, and you should be looking for opportunities or pockets in the market to multiply your returns. So that's how last year we were able to make, I had like 3 or 4 clients make like 150% last year, because when the market crashed, I literally called them and was like, hey, on your balance sheet, it says you got like 60K in your bank. I need like 25, 30,000 bucks. And here's why. I sent them research reports, balance sheets, all this stuff. These are companies that, you know, we saw airlines, we saw, you know, like Southwest Airlines, you know, Hilton, some of the large hotel groups. They're not going out of business. Their balance sheets are phenomenal. And so when they drop 30 or 40%, there's no reason, there's nothing in their balance sheet that says they should have dropped 30 or 40%. People are just scared because they know we're not going to fly a lot. But that's not a justifiable reason for the price to drop. So if you buy it, you're going to make 60 or 70% on the way back up to where it was. That's just to get back to where it was. Hopefully these companies continue to grow. And so looking for opportunities like that, we were able to offset some of the losses clients had, or if they had no losses, set up new accounts and have killer returns, doubling their money almost during that first year. And so that kind of leads into the last, is which considering positioning yourself for opportunity. I recommend people have as much cash as they can. I would say people have as much cash as they can, you know, hold at any given period of time. You don't want to be all in cash, but you should have 4, 5, 6 months for expenses, and then maybe an extra few grand up to 10, 15, 20, whatever you're comfortable with on top of that as well, because opportunities can present themselves during tough economic times. In 2008, 2009, when the real estate market tanked, inventory flooded the markets and prices were very, very cheap. People who had cash bought all those properties, and they're probably worth 400% of what they were worth in 2008 and 2009. But if you didn't have cash, you can't take advantage of those opportunities. And so I do try to position clients to have, you know, if they do have a large positive cash flow, I actually do have some of those funds go into cash positions so that we can take advantage of opportunities like that if they present themselves. And the last thing I'll say about tough economic times is it's all cyclical. And so everything that goes on in the market is, I don't want to say artificial, but it's all controlled by levers. And so when the market dropped last year, you saw the Fed reduce interest rates basically to nothing. They wanted to make money as cheap as possible. And then they have stimulus packages where they literally give people cash and print money, and people go into the economy and they spend that money. That stimulates the markets. Slowly interest rates start to go back up, and that will have an impact on stocks. Like yesterday, if you watched CNBC or whatever, interest rates ticked up a little bit. Stocks didn't like that. But as interest rates come back up, hopefully people refinance their debts. Companies have loaned tons of money that's going to lead to lots of profits, and that's going to stimulate stock growth. And so, you know, if like Courtney, you were in the banking system, if the Fed doesn't want people to borrow money, they're going to raise interest rates. They're going to make it more expensive for the banks to have money to lend, and they're going to make it more expensive for people to get money. If they want people to lend money, you're going to see super low rates because they want that money into the economy. And so the Fed or the powers that be are able to kind of control the directions of the economy based on what's happening. So I wouldn't get too weirded out if we see a drop of 10, 15, 20%. I would look for opportunities to capitalize on that on the other side. And so, that's kind of what we try to do as comprehensive planning for clients. So to say the 5 things over just one more time, number 1 was assess your cash flow, know your numbers. Number 2 was look for a way to create more financial efficiency, save money. Number 3 was budget with prioritization. Look at needs and then look at wants. Make investments or make having some cash available a need on your balance sheet, just like food, and just don't miss it. Number 4, understand your investment retirement strategy. Know how long you have to access certain accounts, and that can dictate how you make decisions on those accounts if we do see a pullback. And then number 5, consider positioning yourself for opportunity if there's a pullback on the other side. So I'll open it up for questions if anybody has questions about this or about stuff in general.
I have a question from a business perspective, because I know you work with a lot of businesses as well. How long term? So obviously, like with a personal account, I'm looking at, hey, I want to retire when I'm this age, and this is the income that I want to have every year. So we kind of create the strategy based around that. But for a business, how are you looking? I mean, what's kind of your short term versus long term? How do you handle that? Especially with smaller businesses that are maybe, owned by just 1 or 2 people or a small group.
So you have to have, as a business, you have to have cash reserves. That killed a lot of businesses last year. And it really was not, it's not because the business didn't have quality. It's a lot of businesses have significant leverage, especially in the early years. You just have to keep some cash reserves because you never know. Anything can happen that can impact your business. And so I do recommend that businesses have, anywhere from maybe 4 to even as high as 12 months, depending on the infancy stage of the business or what the person does or how volatile their income could be, that they do have that just in cash, not even exposed to the market. That keeps the business alive and it keeps people employed during tough economic times. If you're completely leveraged, there were some companies on the stock exchange, very high rated companies actually, who had a week of cash reserves. They're done. They're toast. They're out of business. If you have to close your doors for 6 months, that's it. You're done. And so those people should have had significant cash reserves. They should have audited their expenses. They should have looked at where money was being spent. And so you have to have cash reserves. You also have to have an exit strategy as a business. 85% of businesses have never had a valuation done. They have no idea what their business is worth. And so that's like, it's probably their largest asset. So if that's part of their retirement plan, that's like having a retirement plan and having an IRA, but you have no idea how much money's in it. And you're like, well, I'll just check it when I retire. So one of the things that we try to do is evaluate businesses. We have a software that does it actually for free. We evaluate businesses every year and we track the value of the business. We had people sell businesses last year because they were going to get actually a premium for their business because they expanded during, we had people purchase businesses last year that were undervalued because they had poor balance sheets, and it significantly elevated the value of their business. They're retiring like 10 years earlier now. And so if I have someone, let's say you're running, I don't know, X company, and for whatever reason, we do some things and the value of your business gets up to $2-3 million, you can sell your business and retire. You don't have to keep working in your business. But if we don't know the value of it, you might get hosed by a business broker or somebody like that who undervalues it just to get the deal because you see dollar signs. And so have an exit strategy and have enough cash to withstand tough times because tough times happen.
Yeah, I think that's something that we talked to a lot of businesses about last year. I mean, obviously none of us could really, predict what COVID was going to do or how long-term this was going to be. But I was surprised how many businesses had no plan, no emergency plan, no emergency reserves or anything for any kind of disaster. I mean, anything could happen at any time. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. It can be a natural disaster or like the floods in Stanton, things like that. And just so many were not prepared. So I think that's been a big focus over the last year as we've been talking to different businesses, not just in our area, but around the state that need to be prepared. You just don't know. I mean, even, a sole proprietor, if the owner has an accident and is out of work for months, that's their business. So I think that's really important. And it's something we don't like to think about, just like we don't like to think about, anything that's negative or whatever, but you still have to plan for that. So that's good. Any other questions?
All right. I was just going to say that when Dalton's talking about insurance and brokers, and that is something you don't really think about. You kind of just sign up with whatever insurance company and you just kind of stick with them because that's what, you do from year to year. So it's kind of good advice to sort of maybe go to a broker and see what's the cheapest option, and best financial decision. So that's a good tip. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming. Before we wrap up, I just want to make sure you guys know some upcoming events. At the end of March, on March 24th, we have a Google event. So this is a free webinar with Google about getting your local business on Google search and maps. So if you are not sure if your business is on Google search or maps, definitely attend this webinar. It's free. So that's on, if you go to our calendar, you can view that. And then also we in April are hoping to get back to business after hours. So watch our calendar for that. So hopefully we will be in person again. So watch your calendars for that. If you all need anything, feel free to let us know. Courtney put the link down there in for the event. So feel free to register for any events that you see. If you all need anything, let us know. But if not, happy Friday. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend and we'll see you soon.